The Wire is AI generated. Just like humans, AI sometimes gets it wrong. Trust but verify the information contained in this podcast.
Welcome to the Wire Weekly Roundup. The week in real estate presented in digestible bites. Hold on while our AI hosts take us on another ride through this week's top real estate headlines.
Welcome back to The Wire, everybody. You know it's the place to be if you want to stay ahead of the game in real estate. This week, we're taking a deep dive into the 2025 housing market.
Yes.
February.
Yeah.
And the market's sending out some pretty mixed signals, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, are we in for a crash? Are we going to see a boom? Or are we just kind of stuck somewhere in the middle, I think?
It's anybody's guess right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you sent over a bunch of data and reports and analyses,
Wow.
and we're going to try to make sense of it all. We've got insights from Ontos Research looking at trends in home prices and inventory. Then we have the National Association of Realtors weighing in on existing home sales and how mortgage rates are playing into everything. And then, just to add to the mix, we've got some on-the-ground perspectives from Housing Wire and Real Estate News, covering all kinds of stuff. New construction, Gen Z buyers, even the political landscape and how that's impacting housing.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack, but hey, that's why we're here, right?
Oh.
Let's dig in. All right, so the first thing that really pops out to me is this whole affordability issue. I mean, yeah, mortgage rates have eased up a little bit. Freddie Mac says the average 30-year fixed rate is down to 6.85%.
Right?
But home prices, those just don't seem to want to budge.
Yeah, it's tough out there, especially if you're a first-time buyer.
Yeah.
The National Association of Realtors is reporting that the median price for existing homes actually went up
Really?
almost 5% compared to last January. So we're looking at $396,900.
Wow.
Which, by the way, is a new record. This is 19 months in a row of price increases.
19 months straight. Wow. I mean, that just blows my mind. It's got to be incredibly difficult to even think about buying a house right now.
Yeah.
When you look at those numbers, I mean, 6.85% interest rate on a $400,000 house, which seems pretty standard these days, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
You're talking about a monthly payment of almost $2,100 if you're putting 20% down. But if you can only manage 10% down, forget it. You're looking at over $2,300 a month.
Yeah, it's no wonder people are hesitant. The Mortgage Bankers Association is seeing a drop in mortgage applications, so that kind of backs up what we're saying.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets kind of interesting. The National Association of Realtors also found that over 25% of buyers these days, they're not even using financing. They're just paying cash. I mean,
yeah, it's a wild trend.
That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that means for the folks who need a mortgage? Are they basically getting pushed out of the market? What are you seeing out there?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially with inventory being such a pain point.
Right. Inventory. It's the word on everyone's lips.
Yeah.
Are we seeing any light at the end of the tunnel with this shortage?
I mean, there are some glimmers of hope for sure. The National Association of Realtors, they're saying inventory for existing homes grew to about 1.18 million units in January, which is up from last year.
Okay.
But it's still only a 3.5-month supply, which historically speaking is still super tight. And that's why those prices are so high.
Totally. So let's talk new construction for a minute. I mean, the signals seem mixed there too.
Yeah.
Census Bureau says housing starts actually fell in January. Builders are probably nervous about those rising costs, right?
Makes sense.
And just overall demand being uncertain. But then Realtor.com comes along and says, hey, completions are actually up.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some optimism sneaking in there.
It's like builders are trying to figure out this new normal.
Right.
It's tough to say if they're being too optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But for all of you listening out there, what's your take on this low inventory situation? How are you helping your clients navigate this crazy market? Whether they're trying to buy or sell, I mean, is it just a matter of managing expectations, or are you having to get creative with financing? I'm really curious to know what strategies are working for you guys, so let us know. Because this low inventory thing, it's been going on for a while.
It has.
And you've had to adapt constantly, haven't you?
Oh, for sure. You know, it kind of feels like we're in uncharted territory here.
Yeah, totally. And just to make things even more complicated, there's all that stuff happening in Washington. Politics and housing, they're always intertwined.
Absolutely. We've got these proposed cuts to HUD, impacting things like disaster recovery, rental assistance, and even fair housing.
Right.
The New York Times and the Associated Press have been covering that.
Right.
And those cuts, if they happen, they could really hurt affordability down the line.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect for sure.
Big time.
And then there's the CFPB. Apparently, operations there have been halted, according to a whole bunch of sources.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think that means in the long term? Could we see a rise in predatory lending? What about consumer protection and housing? I mean, these are big questions.
They are huge.
And speaking of things that could have a big impact, we can't ignore all the misinformation that's flying around.
No, absolutely not.
Especially about the DC housing market.
Yeah, that's been wild.
People are talking about a mass exodus and prices plummeting because of layoffs.
Mhm.
But the data from Bright MLS, it actually shows things are pretty stable.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder for all of us to stick to the facts.
Right.
And not get caught up in all the hype, especially when we're advising our clients. So tell me, how are you guys using data and reliable sources to build that trust with your clients and cut through the noise?
That's the key. Having good information is more important now than ever.
Totally agree. Speaking of information, we found something in our research that really surprised me. I think it might change your assumptions about who's buying homes these days. Get this. Gen Z is entering the market,
They are.
but they're doing it strategically.
Yeah.
CoreLogic data shows they're focusing on affordability.
Uh-huh.
They're looking at places like the Midwest and the South.
Right.
We're talking cities like Des Moines, Omaha, Youngstown even.
Boy.
And in these places, Gen Z makes up a big chunk of those mortgage applicants. But then you look at Hawaii or
Right.
even DC, and the Gen Z presence is way lower. So what's the takeaway here? What does this tell us about what Gen Z wants and how this might shape the market in the future?
Good question. I wonder if you're seeing this trend play out in your own markets. Are younger buyers choosing affordability above everything else?
It's definitely something to watch. After going through all this information, one thing's crystal clear knowledge is power, especially in uncertain times like these.
You got that right.
We got to keep ourselves informed and be ready to adapt.
Absolutely.
It's about tracking that market data, understanding policy changes, and listening to what the experts are saying.
Right.
And thankfully, there's a ton of technology out there that can help us stay on top of it all, for sure. But I got to be honest, sometimes it feels like we're drowning in data.
Yeah, I hear it.
How do we sift through it all and figure out what actually matters for us and our clients?
You got to think critically.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing the numbers. It's about understanding what those numbers mean, what's driving those trends, what risks are there, what opportunities are hiding in plain sight.
And that's why continuing education is more important than ever, right?
Couldn't agree more.
The more we learn, the better we are at connecting the dots and giving our clients the guidance they need.
Yeah, it's like we're detectives,
Right.
piecing together all these clues to crack the case of the housing market.
I love that. I mean, that's what being a great real estate agent is all about, isn't it? Guiding your clients through this maze, anticipating their needs, building relationships based on trust and expertise.
Absolutely. It's about being more than just a salesperson. You're a trusted advisor, a problem solver. You're in their corner.
That's a great way to put it. And, speaking of building trust, we have to talk about how to combat all this misinformation out there.
Yeah.
With social media these days, it's easy for people to get swept up in all the fear-mongering and unrealistic expectations.
Oh, totally.
Remember that post about the DC housing market crashing?
Oh, yeah.
Totally unfounded.
Yep.
Bright MLS data showed things were actually pretty stable, but that post probably caused a lot of unnecessary stress.
Oh, for sure.
So how are you all out there dealing with this? Are you being proactive,
Yeah.
sharing credible information, debunking those housing myths? It's like we have to be mythbusters and therapists all in one these days.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's crucial for a healthy market.
It really is.
I got to help our clients make sense of all this information overload.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to that issue of affordability.
Always does.
The National Association of Realtors hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
High prices, limited inventory. It's a tough combination for buyers, even with rates easing a little.
Definitely makes the dream of home ownership feel out of reach for a lot of people, especially first-time buyers.
Yeah, and then you add those cash buyers to the mix, and it makes you wonder what's going to happen in the long run.
Right. Is it sustainable? Are we heading towards a system where only the wealthy can own homes?
Now that's a deep dive for another episode. But seriously, it's something we all need to think about as we move forward.
I agree. It's a complex issue.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk mortgage rates again for a second. They've been all over the place the last few years.
They really have.
Skyrocketed in 23, kind of calmed down in 24,
Right?
and now they seem stuck in that 6% range.
Yeah. Who knows what's next?
It's enough to make your head spin. Some experts think they'll keep going down, but others are saying, nope, inflation's coming back. Get ready for them to go up again. What do you think?
I honestly have no idea. It's like trying to predict the weather weeks out.
Yeah.
So many factors are at play. The Fed, the global economy, even politics.
Right.
It's a tough call.
So what's the bottom line for our listeners? What advice are you giving your clients about these unpredictable mortgage rates? Lock in now or wait and see?
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah.
Every client's different.
Yeah.
The key is to have honest conversations with them.
Yeah.
Help them understand the risks and benefits of each option, whether it's locking in now or waiting.
Right.
And guide them towards a decision that makes sense for their goals and their risk tolerance.
It's all about that personalized approach.
Exactly.
Really knowing your client, their financial situation, their dreams for the future. That's what sets a great agent apart, especially in this market.
I couldn't agree more. It's about being more than just a salesperson. You're a trusted advisor, a problem solver. You're in their corner.
Well said. So I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Affordability, inventory woes, those political headwinds, the rise of Gen Z buyers, and those ever unpredictable mortgage rates.
We've hit on all the major themes shaping the real estate landscape right now.
We really have. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The Fed's been hinting at more rate cuts in the coming months. Could that trigger a surge in buyer activity and push prices even higher? Or will affordability concerns keep the market in check? Maybe even lead to a slowdown or a correction?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think the answer is probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's what makes this also fascinating. The real estate market is always changing, always full of surprises. It's our job to stay ahead of the curve, be those expert navigators for our clients, and embrace both the challenges and opportunities that come our way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep thriving in this exciting world of real estate.
Absolutely. That wraps up this week's deep dive into the 2025 housing market. Thanks for tuning in to The Wire, everyone. We'll be back next week with another episode packed with insights to help you navigate your business.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep those questions coming and stay curious.
Always.
See you all next week.
See you. Bye. Bye.
It really is, yeah. And it's amazing how technology has become such a vital tool for us.
Right. It's like having a GPS in this ever-changing market.
Exactly. We can track those trends in real time, give ourselves and our clients an advantage.
For sure. But sometimes I feel like there's just so much data out there, it's overwhelming. I know what you mean. It's like, where do you even start?
Exactly. How do we know what's actually important? What really matters for our business and for our clients?
Well, that's where critical thinking comes in. It's not just about looking at the numbers. It's about understanding what's behind them.
Right.
What are the forces driving these trends? What risks are out there? What opportunities are we missing?
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's why I think continuing education is so important these days.
Oh, absolutely.
The more we learn, the better equipped we are to connect those dots and guide our clients, really help them make smart decisions.
It's true. We're like detectives out there.
Right.
Piecing together clues, trying to solve the mystery of the housing market.
I love that analogy. Because at the end of the day, that's what being a great agent is all about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Helping your clients navigate this crazy market, being there for them every step of the way, and building those relationships that are built on trust and expertise.
It really is. Speaking of trust, we have to be extra vigilant these days about combating misinformation.
Oh, for sure.
Social media can be a breeding ground for all sorts of crazy claims and fear-mongering.
Absolutely. Remember that viral post about everyone leaving the DC market?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Turned out to be completely false.
Right. And bright MLS data proved it.
Exactly. But I bet a lot of people freaked out unnecessarily.
Oh, definitely.
So how are you guys tackling this issue? Are you talking to your clients about it proactively? Are you using your platforms to share reliable information and debunk those myths? It feels like we have to be mythbusters and therapists all rolled into one these days.
No, right? It's part of the job now.
It really is. It's all about keeping the market healthy and informed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to guide our clients through all this noise.
Couldn't agree more. And, it all circles back to affordability.
Always does.
The National Association of Realtors really hit the nail on the head with that.
I did.
High prices, low inventory, It's a tough situation for buyers.
Yeah.
Even with those lower mortgage rates.
It's making it really hard for people to achieve that dream of homeownership, especially if they're just starting out.
Yeah. And then you throw in all those cash buyers, and it makes you wonder about the future. You know?
It does. Is it sustainable? Are we heading towards a market where only the wealthy can afford to buy?
Ooh. That's a deep dive for another episode. But it's definitely something to keep in mind.
I agree. It's a big question.
For sure. Okay, let's get back to mortgage rates for a minute. It's been a wild ride the last few years.
Oh, tell me about it.
They went through the roof in 23, then kind of settled down in 24, and now they're hanging out in that 6% range.
Who knows what they'll do next?
Right. It's like a guessing game. Some experts think they'll keep dropping. Others are predicting they'll go back up with inflation.
It's anyone's guess, really.
It is. So what advice are you giving your clients in this crazy mortgage rate environment? Lock in now or wait it out?
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer. It
Okay.
depends on the client, their situation, their goals.
Makes sense.
The most important thing is to be honest with them.
Yeah.
Lay out the risks and benefits of each option
Uh-huh.
and help them make the choice that's right for them.
It all comes back to that personalized approach, doesn't it?
It does.
Really knowing your clients, understanding their finances, their dreams. That's what sets a great agent apart.
For sure. You're not just selling them a house, you're helping them achieve their goals.
You're a partner in the process.
Exactly.
Well said. So we've covered a lot today. Affordability, inventory issues, the political landscape, the rise of Gen Z buyers, and those unpredictable mortgage rates.
Yeah, we've hit on all the major themes shaping the real estate market right now.
We really have. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought, something to really chew on.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. So the Fed's been hinting at more rate cuts. Could that lead to a sudden boom in buyer activity, driving prices even higher? Or will those affordability challenges we talked about keep things in check, maybe even cause a slowdown or a correction?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think the answer's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's that uncertainty that keeps things interesting.
It does.
And it's our job as agents to stay ahead of the curve, be those expert navigators for our clients, and embrace all the challenges and opportunities that come our way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and keep thriving.
Absolutely.
And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the 2025 housing market. It's been a great conversation.
It has.
And I hope you all feel more prepared to navigate this exciting, ever-changing world of real estate.
I hope so too.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to The Wire. Keep those questions coming, stay curious, and we'll see you next week for another insightful episode.
Looking forward to it.
It is. And it seems like there's always something new to learn.
Yeah, keeps things interesting, that's for sure.
No kidding. So, we talked a little about those proposed cuts to HUD earlier.
Right. But I'm curious to hear your take on how that might actually play out, if those cuts go through.
Well, I think it could really impact affordability. I mean, HUD's a major player when it comes to rental assistance and supporting affordable housing.
Right.
So if those programs get cut back, it's going to be even tougher for people to find decent places to live.
That's a really good point. And then, of course, there's the whole situation with the CFPB,
Yeah.
where operations have basically been halted.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts on what that could mean down the road?
Well, it's definitely worrying. The CFPB is there to protect consumers from those predatory lending practices.
Yeah.
So if they're not operating at full capacity,
Right.
it could leave people vulnerable,
Yeah.
Open to unfair loans, scams, that kind of thing.
Especially with affordability being such a struggle already.
Exactly. It's something we need to be really careful about. We
Yeah.
need those strong consumer protections.
Totally agree. So on that note, how are you guys handling all the misinformation that's out there?
Right.
It seems like every day there's a new headline or social media post.
Oh, yeah.
It's either super optimistic or total doom and gloom.
I know.
How do you keep your clients grounded?
Honestly, I think it's about being that reliable source of information. I try to stay up to date on all the latest data,
Yeah.
From reputable sources like NAR, Altos, those local market reports.
Yeah.
And then I just share that with my clients clearly and concisely so they can make those informed decisions.
It's about cutting through the noise and focusing on what's real.
Exactly.
And I think transparency is key too.
Absolutely.
Don't sugarcoat things, but don't be all doom and gloom either.
Right.
Just give them the facts.
Right. Help them understand what it means for them.
Great advice. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier. The rise of Gen Z buyers.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
It is.
They're entering the market, but they're being super strategic about it
Right.
focusing on affordability. What do you think that means for the future of real estate?
Well, Gen Z is the biggest generation yet, right?
Yeah.
So as they start buying homes, their preferences are going to have a huge impact.
Do you think their focus on affordability is going to drive prices down in those pricier markets? Or is it going to push demand and prices up in areas that are already affordable?
It's hard to say for sure. I guess we'll have to see how it all shakes out.
Right.
One thing's for certain, we got to be ready to adapt to the needs of this new generation of buyers.
Absolutely. And I think that brings us to our final takeaway for today. In this crazy market, adaptability is key.
Couldn't agree more.
We've got to be flexible, willing to learn, always one step ahead.
It's the only way to thrive.
Well said. And on that note, I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the 2025 housing market. It's been a great conversation.
It really has.
I hope everyone out there feels a little more prepared to navigate this exciting, ever-changing world of real estate. To all our listeners, thank you for tuning in to The Wire. Keep those questions coming.
Yes.
Stay curious.
Always.
And we'll see you next week for another insightful episode.
See you then.
Bye.
If you're interested in your own personalized edition of The Wire, please visit us at thewire.fm/custom. We offer market-specific podcasts with all the latest real estate news and market analysis delivered to you weekly or monthly. Own your market with a personalized edition of The Wire, the week in real estate. Thank you for listening.